Hey, what's going on, guys? Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking out the channel. Much appreciated. Hope you guys can subscribe here. Oh, it's so good to be back in South Florida, New York. Not for me. Happy to be back. A lot of Heat stuff happened over the weekend. I was away for a buddy's wedding. What do we miss? Okay, so Haywood Highsmith, he's going to be out a couple weeks with an MCL sprain. That's a huge bummer. Thought he was having an awesome camp. Cole Swider, he got a two-way deal. Not surprising. He was... I think everybody in the organization really digs what he's bringing to the table. Drew Smith, everybody got crazy with Drew Smith getting a standard deal. I think you guys are being a little too hard on Drew Smith. I thought Drew Smith is the preseason game that I was at for the Nets. He was playing a good game up until he got into a little bit of foul trouble. And I just think they need an insurance policy on some certain things. It is a point guard rotation that's not deep. But I think that you understand that they are in a spot right now where, Jay Rich, especially with his foot injury, if it's touch and go, I think that was their initial plan. We may be in a spot where Kyle Lowry is going to end up being in that spot anyway. But they like Drew Smith, man. I mean, they do. Spo really has a big appreciation for him in the way that he works. And, from, the guys like Tyler Johnson, Rodney Magruder, those dogs in there, like he has a knack for keeping some of those guys around who will do the tough stuff. I know he doesn't have the prettiest shot or the prettiest touch in the world, but there is something that the organization likes about him. So let's see how that rolls for Miami. But Bradley Beal did this thing with Mark Spears and opened up about his desire to be in Miami. And he did this sit down with Mark Spears. I guess a video is coming out with this, so there may be eventually some, Bradley Beal, actually you get to hear him express this. But he said on Miami and the whole trade talks of everything, he says, so my initial favorite was Miami, and so we call Miami, and Pat Riley says, we'll go talk to owner Mickey Arison and go figure it out. So he goes and he talks to Mickey, and we hear back the Knicks, Sacramento, Brooklyn a little bit, and then Milwaukee, one more big trade. So I didn't like the Knicks. I didn't like Sac from a standpoint of they were still a little too young, even though they have amazing young guys and young pieces. And they would have had to trade those young pieces to get me, and that was the most difficult thing about every trade. I respect and love every trade, but a lot of them couldn't do it because the money was so high. And so I'm like, okay, what is Miami doing? Dragging its feet? Eventually it came to the point where Miami said they just can't do it, and that was kind of like a gut punch. I was like, dang. That was my spot. But it was eye-opening for sure, and that's why I went into everything kind of open-minded with an open slate. And out of nowhere, here comes this dark horse Phoenix, and their aggressiveness pushed me over the top. So I think that's going to piss a lot of Heat fans off, for sure. Now, there were a lot of reporters were hearing back from the Heat today on the Bradley Beal thing, and their quarrel with it was... they had big issue, and they said this on the record, so I'm guessing that, team spokesman goes over to the reporters, lets them know, or somebody from the Heat lets the reporters know, because everybody had this today, and said that this is from Anthony Chang, for those asking about the Bradley Beal and the Heat, the no-trade clause was the issue. The Heat didn't want to inherit Bradley Beal's no-trade clause, and Beal didn't want to give it up. Ira Winderman also writes, he says, Heat today on the record confirmed that the reason no move was made for Bradley Beal on the trade market this offseason was because of the concern of his no-trade clause. Barry Jackson. In fact, the Heat today for the first time confirmed on the record that our Beal no-trade clause was the concern. So Bradley Beal, yes, he is owed a lot of money, just as Damian Lillard was. And I think we all... the thing with Bradley Beal was Bradley Beal didn't go for much, right? And, you were only going to be in the Bradley Beal Heat flirtation. It really lasted a long time. Probably hit a crescendo when Bam Adebayo, I've never seen this and still haven't seen it to this day, where Bam Adebayo wore a Bradley Beal autographed jersey after the Heat beat the Washington Wizards. He was wearing a Bradley Beal autographed jersey backwards for all cameras to see. I was like, that is crazy. Like, I've never seen something like that. So Bradley Beal, big D Wade guy, loves D Wade. was definitely a match that a lot of people looked at and thought was going to make a whole lot of sense. Now, for Bradley Beal to describe it as a gut punch, that his agent, who I believe has had a good relationship with the Heat in the past, goes to Pat Riley, and the Pat's got to go speak to Mickey Arison, and Mickey's like, let's just say, okay, they came out to that. They said, no trade clause, a little bit dicey. And Bradley Beal to describe that as a gut punch, yeah, it's tough. And he goes into this article talking about, like, look, I get it. If I was an owner, you want to guarantee that you're going to have your shot at the title. You're going to have your shot at, getting you over the top. But when you see that the Suns have new ownership and they are willing to spend a little crazy, and we've seen this before. Look, the renegade owner who has spent crazy, Prokhorov, didn't work out for him. It's not really working out for Steve Ballmer. And even he's kind of hit his limit, right? Because they haven't gone all in on the James Harden deal. Maybe it will happen, but they have a price point. So in a way, it's tough because Mickey has had a lot of success doing it his way and not spending willy-nilly and not going crazy if it's not a guaranteed title, right? It's not. And there has to be some credit given to that for the Arison family for the way Mickey and Nick are running things, and finding the value in guys and getting to where they have to get to. But fans don't want to hear that, the responsibility when it's billionaires and I don't want to spend this on getting a championship team, because when you have premium players, 2 of them this summer, saying the number one spot I wanted to be in Miami, and they're not in Miami, yeah, that's gonna annoy the holy hell out of the fan base. Just is. And the Heat can put the spin on it was the no trade clause, it wasn't the money. I get you, dude. Look, fine. I'm not saying that it's not a risky thing either to have Bradley. Look, Bradley Beal didn't have a lot of takers with his first no trade clause. A 3-year older Bradley Beal with a no trade clause, yeah, I'd imagine that's a bit of an anchor that you got to have. But also, you have a 34-year-old Jimmy Butler. What is going to be the move that gets it done? And I would have only done this if it meant not giving up Tyler Hero. I'm not, I wasn't of the, you give up everything to get Bradley. No. I would have given Tyler Hero for Damian Lillard, but I wouldn't have for Bradley Beal. But I imagine it was going to be very similar. Beal even says this in the article when Ishbia calls him out. He goes, "You're dealing Devin Booker?" And it's like, no, dude, you're not that good. You're not that guy, pal. So he's going to be in a very similar scenario in Phoenix, where he's playing in a backcourt with not as really, he's going to kind of be the point guard. They're kind of dealing with a no point guard thing either. It's like Bradley Beal and Devin Booker, they're really scoring guards. They've initiated offense. They can do it. They'll be fine. And I think for Miami, they probably, from a basketball standpoint, I think that him and Tyler Hero would have worked out just fine. I mean, it's not the greatest defensive backcourt in the world, but holy hell, they'd shoot the lights out. But alas, it was not so. It was not so. But I think with the Heat fan gets frustrated with all of this stuff is like, well, what is going to be the perfect move that lets you go all in? Like, who is going to be the guy that puts you all the way in? And to come out like this and be like, wait, so Bradley Beal really, really, really wanted to be here to the point where he's saying that they went to the owner and Pat had to go talk to Mickey Arison about this. And the issue was, well, we can't take on that no trade clause. And I don't know. I don't know how that's going to sit with a lot of Heat fans. Because I do think if you were able to add Bradley Beal with Tyler Hero and with Bam and Jimmy, yeah, it adds, again, that proven dynamic scorer. If you had to give up Tyler Hero, that's a different conversation. I mean, I'll sit here and say, like, I'm not quite sure. I'll do it for Dame. I'm not sure I'm doing it for Bradley Beal with giving up Tyler Hero. And I'm pretty sure I was steadfast on that when the deal went down. Because I did think, I was like, it seems like this is going somewhere. And then all of a sudden it was Phoenix. But this has been, I think, annoying to the Heat fan to hear, hey, such and such wants to be, for the longest time it was, well, you weren't the first team, right? It was like you were Kevin Durant and it was you It was the Suns and you, but you're kind of second potato. You're not the number one team he wants to be at. Donovan Mitchell, oh, we got to deal with Danny Ainge. They didn't really want to go all in. Okay, fine. But now you've had two guys this summer. Two guys really wanted to be with you. You had built this thing to a place where you've had now two dynamic guards who look at what you have built and say, I want to go there and be that final piece. And the Heat haven't pushed it over. And the thing that has always been said is, okay, Mickey doesn't want to spend, or Mickey doesn't want to go into these aprons without it getting you to a championship. And again, I'm saying this on the preface of, if it meant giving up Tyler Hero for Bradley Beal, different story for me. I don't want to give up Tyler Hero for Bradley Beal. But if you could have had them both, much like they're going to have Devin Booker and Bradley Beal, and you looked at that and says, not sure that I want to go for broke there. I don't want to go for the championship there. That's going to, I think, aggravate a lot of people. Now, again, there ended up being a semi-Damian Lillard pursuit. But again, that one also felt very much like, the Heat started putting this, we're not going to put all our chips in the table. We're not going to, we're taking on a big risk here with contract too. It's like, all right, but there is going to be risk in some of these contracts. You guys are paying a fat contract to a point guard right now who you guys don't even want to start. So, I don't know. I think that for me, hearing this today from Bradley Beal, I'm just wondering what's going to be the move for the Heat that will ever get them. Will any move get them there? Is Mickey going to be at a point where like nothing can get there? Because look, you're never going to get what they got with paying, D Wade and LeBron James and Chris Bosh less than max money. And you're at a point right now where, you pay Jimmy a lot of money for his age. Maybe you'll have to give him another extension. Bam's next contract is going to be absolutely massive. But also that's the NBA. Like, these massive deals are getting thrown all over the place. Like, you're getting, huge deals in Boston, huge deals in Memphis. But ultimately, like, you're probably going to have to bite the bullet on one of these, you would think, especially like all of this temptation around and all these guys who want to come to the Miami Heat. And like, who is going to be the perfect scenario that gets Miami and ownership to say, yep, that's the guy? Because it wasn't Bradley Beal. And I get it. Bradley Beal, probably not what he was a couple of years ago. Bradley Beal was, not leading to a lot of winning in Washington. But I think a lot of people would look at what he, Durant, and Booker have going and think, hey, it was worth the swing. And with Miami, it feels very much like with Jimmy, we're sitting here and we're like, all right, well, who is going to be the guy that makes you say yes and puts you in this position to pull the trigger on a deal that will get Miami over the hump? Because they've been very close to the hump. They've been doing what they've been doing, which is been being able to do this with undrafted guys and guys on cheap contracts and guys who are playing way above their value. It's great. You have to give kudos to the Heat organization for being able to be this successful while doing that. But is there ever going to be a time coming up in the near future where Miami would be willing to spend a little crazy to give Jimmy and Bam and Spo a little bit more of a chance? And I think when you see this today and you see the Heat's response to this being like, well, it wasn't the money that was the concern. It was the money plus the no trade clause. It's like, all right, but it was the money. It wasn't, it's mostly the money and the idea that you don't have the flexibility of dealing. It's like, okay, but you're probably going to have a hard time dealing $60 million anyway. Forget no trade clause or forget the no trade clause. Like at an advanced age, a guy making $60 million is not going to make him an easy person to deal with anyway. We're seeing that now with Kyle Lowry, right? Like it's like, do you want to take on $30 million of Kyle Lowry? Not a lot of takers on that one, are there? So when they put out there it's like, oh, it was the no trade clause. I'm like, all right. And again, if the concern, and I guess it's not, because I feel like the Heat would have said, like, yeah, we weren't giving up Tyler Hero for him. I feel like that would have been part of the response. But yeah, man, I definitely think this is going to be something when you hear another guy, another all-star come out this summer and say, yeah, my number one choice was Miami, and he's not on Miami. It's going to piss Heat fans off. You could go out there and you could say it was the no trade clause all you want, and okay, but this is a Heat fan base that has been looking for a little bit of spice, a little bit of something, and you've had two guards, one who I think is way better than the other, and Dame compared to Bradley Beal, but both of them have said that their number one landing spot was Miami, and neither one of them are on Miami. And how is that not going to piss the fan base off?